So yes, take the risk, but take the risk in proportion to the responsibilities that you have. I've met some amazing entrepreneurs who had great services or had a great product, but they refused to invest properly in accounting systems. Yeah. And things have happened. Their books haven't been proper. The taxes weren't properly reported. Case in point, a lot when we were in the midst of COVID and they had like PPP loans, a lot of entrepreneurs that I knew had improper books, so they couldn't qualify for PPP loans because their books were not straight. But then those who had good books, they could get a PPP loan. And I think the greatest thing that causes an entrepreneur to fail is the failure to take care of the accounting system. Doesn't have to be complex at all, but you've got to keep good books. You've got to keep up with your records. You've got to report what you're spending. You've got to report what you're making, because Uncle Sam comes for everybody, right? And so the basic core of everything is take care of your accounting.
So, welcome to Vibrant Publishers podcast, where we interview experts to share their valuable insights. Today, we are joined by Dr. Sonja B. Wilson, a remarkable individual with an impressive list of credentials. She's got a PhD in leadership, JD, Masters in Tax, Masters in Education, Masters in Economics, EA IRS Enrolled Agent, and a certified public accountant. With a wealth of knowledge and expertise in her arsenal, Dr. Wilson is not just a business coach, but a trusted advisor to business owners across the globe. In today's episode, we'll delve into the insights, wisdom, and strategies that Dr. Sonja Wilson has to offer as she shares her invaluable advice in the world of entrepreneurship. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Dr. Sonja, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super excited.
Great. So I would like to begin by asking that with your extensive background in leadership, taxation, economics, and education, what inspired you to specialize in entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship excites me because of this. When you work a job, you work to fit the job. When you're an entrepreneur, the job works to fit you, right? There's a difference between the two. You as exactly you go out there and make something work because you're an entrepreneur. It belongs to you. It's coming from within. You're not conforming to anything. You're learning to be you and how to take that valuable part of you and make it work in the marketplace.
Right. Got it. Now, a lot of people dream of becoming entrepreneurs, but they often face barriers or uncertainties. So could you share some key qualities or attributes that successful entrepreneurs possess?
First and foremost, you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to know this thing that you have that's valuable. Like, for instance, here you are at the head of a podcast. You could be somewhere else, but you know you've got this gift inside of you, right?
Right.
So you've got to believe in you. It doesn't matter what other people think. It really doesn't matter if your parents think you're the best thing in the world. Doesn't matter if your enemies think you're the worst thing in the world. It's what you think. So if you believe you can do it, you can do it. I've got a little plaque that sits on one of my desks and it says, she believed she could, so she did. And so that's just a marked difference between someone who succeeds as an entrepreneur and someone who won't even try. You've got to believe in you.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, in your experience as an executive business coach, what are some of the common challenges that aspiring entrepreneurs encounter, and how do you help them overcome these challenges?
I think the greatest challenge is just getting started. A lot of times the word entrepreneur is a fancy word for just small business. I think you start where you are. Case in point example, my mom, she's retired now, but she was a seamstress. And the way that she figured out how to take care of us, she realized that everybody came to her to get their clothes made or to get things altered. And so she got a sewing machine and she realized, you know what? I can start a small business. She didn't rent a building. She didn't get a loan. She started right where she was. And so I think that's the greatest obstacle. Just start. It doesn't have to be some grandiose thing. You don't have to go buy up a whole lot of businesses. What is that thing? It's as simple as let's start a podcast. Let's get on other parts of social media. Let's just start where we are. Let's not get in debt. Let's not go over our head. Let's just start where we are. If I realize that I'm good at landscaping, well, honey, go to the yard sale and buy you a lawnmower and start landscaping. Just start where you are. Don't overthink it. Just do it.
So it's all about being proactive.
Yes, being proactive. You have to be proactive.
Right. Now, there are also risks involved in entrepreneurship, and it does involve taking calculated risks. So, how can individuals determine that they have the risk tolerance and mindset that's needed to pursue entrepreneurship? A fear of risk stops someone from pursuing entrepreneurship?
No, first and foremost, no, never be risk averse. You don't want to be risk averse. You want to be a risk taker, but not too high of a taker. See, what the risk involves depends on who it is, right? See, the
Right.
risk that you would take, you're young like my daughter, the risk that you would take, I assume that you just have you to take care of. So the risk for you is a whole lot less than me, where I have a family, I have an extended family that's depending on me. So you want to take risk in proportion to your lifestyle. Now, here's
Right.
what most people do who are wise. If you are established and you got a job and you have a family, you want to start that small business while you still hold your job. There's nothing wrong with having a job, okay? But you want to make sure that you can take care of your everyday necessities. But go ahead and start working that business. You might work it in the evening or you might work it on the weekends, but you want to keep your job. But it depends on who you are. It's a case by case basis. But if I was as young as you and I knew that, hey, I could survive by sleeping on mama's couch, I would go all for it. I'd take every risk that was out there, right? Because
Right.
the only person you can hurt is you. But me, I can't do that. I have to say now, for me to take care of the 5 people in my household, this is what I have to average in income. This is what I have to do. So I'm going to have to work from 8 to 5, but I can work my business before 8, after 5, or on the weekends. So yes, take the risk, but take the risk in proportion to the responsibilities that you have.
Okay. Thank you for the valuable input. Now, for someone who is at the fence of starting their own business, what are some top reasons or benefits that they can consider if they want to pursue entrepreneurship?
Okay. The greatest benefit is what I said earlier, and that is that now business will fit you. You can think of something simple like, when you travel and you get an Uber driver, right? They'll tell you, any Uber driver will tell you what they like about it is that they get to set their own hours. So business is
Right.
fitting them, right? They're self-employed, business is fitting them. That's the great benefit overall of entrepreneurship. You're not in someone else's box. You get to build the box. You get to say what hours you work. You get to set what you're worth. You get to set your day. The beauty of it is, say, for instance, you got a day where you need to help a family member out and you need to take a family member to the doctor. You're an entrepreneur. You set your hours. You get up in the morning and you carve out that time to help that family member because you can. But if you were working, you might not necessarily have that privilege. So the entire privilege of entrepreneurship is that it fits you and who you are.
Okay. All right. That sounds amazing. Now, your company, Wilson's Professional Training Service, provides guidance to business owners on various aspects of businesses. Can you highlight some critical areas that entrepreneurs should focus to ensure their business's success?
I think the primary area is accounting. I've met some amazing entrepreneurs who had great services or had a great product, but they refused to invest properly in accounting systems, right?
Yeah.
And things have happened, their books haven't been proper, the taxes weren't properly reported. Case in point, a lot when we are in the midst of COVID and they had like PPP loans, a lot of entrepreneurs that I knew had improper books. So they couldn't qualify for PPP loans because their books were not straight. But then those who had good books, they could get a PPP loan. And I think the greatest thing that causes an entrepreneur to fail is the failure to take care of the accounting system. Doesn't have to be complex at all, but you've got to keep good books. You've got to keep up with your records. You've got to report what you're spending. You've got to report what you're making, because Uncle Sam comes for everybody, right? And
Right.
so the basic core of everything is take care of your accounting. Doesn't have to be expensive. You can sign up for an online accounting system for $9.95 a month, but you've got to be on top of that. And if you are just a one person entrepreneur, if you have to do it yourself, dedicate an hour every day where you do nothing but take care of your accounting. But you must stay on top of that accounting.
Right. So you mentioned one could also sign up for online services if they want their finances to get managed. What do you think? How much does technology and AI play a role in entrepreneurship?
Oh my goodness, it's a great role. You want to balance. You want to AI is wonderful. It can go out. It's a tool that can go out in marketing and identify proper customers. It's a wonderful thing. If you do certain things, like if you write books and things of that sort, it can help you with concision and all of that type of thing. So AI is limitless in what it can offer. But I always warn entrepreneur, and I'm also a professor, and I always have this for my students. Don't allow AI to strip you of your uniqueness. You don't want to use AI to write for you or to do this for you if you don't know how to do it yourself. Because what happens when AI is not available? You want to use the good things about it. You want it to be the tool that goes out and maybe it can identify a potential target audience for you to go to in the market. You wanted to do those things for you. You want Grammarly and all that kind of stuff, but don't allow it to strip you of your uniqueness. You know, there's recently there was a writer's strike in the United States, and the strike was basically about AI because there was a suggestion that your actors who were like fill-in actors or maybe actors who aren't your top stars, that if they were to do something, then AI would take their likeness and reproduce it, and then they'd be out of a job in the future. That's too far, right? You want to use AI to the point that it helps you grow, to the point that that expands your ability to see who you can be in the marketplace, but never allow it to strip you of your individuality. Never allow it to strip you of the people that you need to make a positive team. Don't get rid of people because of AI. So you want to combine AI with your current setup so you can maximize your success in the marketplace.
Right, that's a wonderful answer. And I believe it's much easier for one to be an entrepreneur these days than previously with the help of technology now, of course.
Absolutely.
It could be
Absolutely.
a single person team and they could
Right.
begin business.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
So should lack of enough capital stop an entrepreneur from starting up? Should they wait for capital build up?
No, not at all. You start where you are. I talked about my mom. She started with a little sewing machine. I have a friend that made me some beautiful curtains who had a little sewing machine that was about this big, I guess. And you have to remember this. It is your talent. It is you that you're bringing to the market. You can go get all the money in the world, all the capital in the world, and it won't make you a success. It won't make you appeal to people in the marketplace. People want you and what you have to offer. And so too often people do go out and they borrow and all of that's not necessary. You want to sit down and you want to say, what is it I want to do? And what does it take to do it? Never be afraid, like Steve Jobs of Apple, to start in your garage, to start in a bedroom in your house. You know, never be afraid. Don't go out and try to be everything at once. Start somewhere and allow yourself time to build and to grow. And whenever you capitalize a business, you use money of your own, or you might sell an interest in your company, or you might go borrow. But always remember when you go to borrow that you have to pay it back. And ask yourself the question, how much pressure do you want on you to have to pay it back? So you can do things like, if you really want something. I had an entrepreneur, I was very impressed by her. She wanted to start some type of club, and she wanted a certain building. And what she did was she took on a second job for an entire year, and she didn't allow herself to spend one dime from that second job. She saved every single cent of it. And then at the end of a year, she took it and bought the building. So there are ways that if you're patient with yourself, that you can get your business started. May not be tomorrow, but in the meantime, she was getting little things, pieces of furniture. She was going to yard sales, all of that. You just build a little bit at a time. If you go back in history, you'll find that the great businesses that exist today started just like that. Somebody had a dream, somebody had a vision. They started small, and over time, it grew into an enterprise.
Right. Thank you for those inspiring stories. Now, I would like to ask you about innovation in entrepreneurship. There's a lot of competition now these days, and there are a lot of companies. So, how can entrepreneurs, differentiate themselves from industry leaders, as in become industry leaders themselves by differentiating themselves from different companies?
So here's the thing, you got to think about an entrepreneur, especially. So you've got those established businesses, they're established, they're already in the market, right? You've got something they don't have. You're hungry. You want it, and you want it very badly, which means that you want it bad enough to get up 2 hours early and to stay up 3 hours later, to go out and do your homework and your research. What are they doing? You want to do an analysis. What are they doing? What can I do better? What are they offering? Here's where AI comes in. A lot of those established industries won't embrace AI like a new entrepreneur. How can you use AI to get the job done quicker? Today's consumer wants it done faster, cheaper. So your innovation is to figure out how to get that done. How do you do that? And then how do you present yourself in such a way? Because people are attracted to people. And so what you really are doing when you buy from me, you're looking at me, and maybe there's a competitor, and you're saying, I like Sonja better. I'll go over there. Always remember that the thing that draws people is never changed over the generations. You win people by who you are. Show them your authentic self. Show them your willingness to do the job and to get the work done, and see, won't they give you a chance?
Right. Now, could we delve deep into the topic of financial management for the entrepreneurs? Since this is one area I think is a little bit, as in, not a lot of attention goes to the financial aspect. It's more about leadership, which is, of course, important. It's more about management, but handling your finances, it's a very big part as well. So, could you give maybe some tips, some strategies to strengthen this area of the entrepreneurs?
So the very first thing you ought to do as a potential entrepreneur is you ought to go ahead and sign up for your accounting system, right? Let's just say here's the industry leader, QuickBooks, but there are many out there, right? So before you do anything, you need to go out there and get yourself a QuickBooks account. You can get it as cheap as $10 a month, right? Then you want to educate yourself. You either
Right.
want to sign up for a local course at your community college and go take a QuickBooks course, or you get on YouTube and take the QuickBooks course that they offer. You can become QuickBooks certified. You need to become obsessed with bookkeeping. And then you ought to think paper, paper, paper. A good accounting system, a good finance system starts with receipts. Two things you must always record. You must always record your bills to your customers, right? And then you almost always must record your expenses. You have to keep up with everything. So you ought to be dedicated to entering receipts, creating bills, matching bills all the time. You must do that. A good accounting system is rooted in a proper receipt system. If you got the right system, then every time you put in a receipt, it's creating what we call a balance sheet to tell you what you're worth at this moment in time. It's creating an income statement to tell you what you're earning, what you've earned from January 1 to this date. It's preparing for you a statement of cash flows that shows you how much cash you have. Are you using the cash in operations, financing, or investing? All this happens with proper receipting. As the year goes by, you get to the end of the year, you make some tweaks and adjustments, and boom, out comes an annual income statement and balance sheet, and you're able to do your tax return in such a way that it's valid. So when things come up like COVID, and there are government grants out there like PPP, you've got good books. Where did it start? With proper receipts. And then you've got to have checks and balances. You want to make sure that you're not the only person, or one person is not the only person. There was a great Christian store here where I live, where they trusted a family member to do all of their receipting and all of their bookkeeping. And it took a couple of years, but nobody ever checked behind her. Nobody ever confirmed what she was doing. And one day, everybody went to cash their paychecks, and it wasn't there because she had been spending all of their money. She bought herself a vacation home. She bought herself a boat. No one knew it. There were no checks and balances. So you must have all of these things in place. Your number one priority after identifying your service or your product is your accounting system. It must be valid and it must be in place, and you must receipt everything.
Good. Thank you for sharing that. Now, entrepreneurs have been here since a long time. The entrepreneurship is not a new thing. But according to you, who is a new age entrepreneur?
Well, and not that he's one of my favorite people, but Elon Musk, of course, right? There's, as a matter of fact, his autobiography came out about 2 weeks ago. Well, one of the latest autobiography. And the bottom line is that he's changing a generation, just like Henry Ford changed a generation when he brought cars in for the first time. Elon Musk is introducing to us the electric vehicle. In other words, we'll get away over the next decade, you get away from gas, which we're running out of, right? And we're going to go to, and there's a struggle in the auto industry, even with the auto strike that's going on right now. We're going to go towards the EV, the electric vehicle. So right now, of course, as strange as he is, as odd as he is, he's still a genius, and he's still leading us to a new generation.
Right, got it.
Why should you be an entrepreneur, right? And the answer to that question is simply because it's your destiny to be an entrepreneur. It's your right, it's your destiny, it's what you want to happen. And so when I talk about your destiny, right? Think about it. First of all, D, you were designed to be exactly you, right? It's your destiny to be exactly you. You're designed that way. You know, here you are, you're a podcaster. Everybody can't be a podcaster. Everybody can't look at a camera and say, how are you? And be just as comfortable and relaxed as you are. It's your destiny. You were born to be that. When you walk down the street and you see someone who is homeless, you see a person who's missed their calling, who's missed their destiny. And so for you at such a young age to know what you want to do, you've called on your destiny. That's the first thing, right? Okay. Right. And so it's also your experiences. You know, this week I read the book that came out by Cassidy Hutchinson. I don't know if you know who she is, but she was the White House aide that testified before the January 6th committee about what happened in the United States on January 6th. Very courageous young woman, probably your age, and just impressive in that her experiences, which is the E of destiny, right? Her experiences got her to the point where she worked in the White House a few feet away from the most important person in the world, the President of the United States. Her experiences got her to the point where she wrote a book that will change her life, right? And change the lives of others. She's destined for that. So that's the E in destiny, right? And so also the S is your successes. What have you succeeded at in the past? Something told you, you know what? I'm going to be good at this podcasting stuff. I'm going to do this. Something told you you've had some success at this somewhere else. Am I right? You've done something like this before. You've had prior successes, right? So not only that, if you're thinking about a business, here's the T. So we got DEST. It's your time. When it's time for you to do something, and I've been alive long enough to know this, there's an urgency on the inside that says it's time for me to make a change. You know, COVID-19 was not a good thing as far as life and health, but it was a good thing for this, is that it forced people out of their comfort zone. When different types of businesses had to shut their doors and people couldn't go to work, that's why entrepreneurs increased by 24%, because people were urgent on the inside. They've closed that restaurant that I work for. I can't go back to that restaurant. They won't let me come over and work with those supplies. So there was an urgency, a timing that said it's your time to do something different. So there's your T in destiny. Your I is independence, because there's a need to be independent. This is a day and time. Times have just changed from when I was your age. You guys have a greater, my daughter who's your age, you have a greater opportunity to be independent. Remember what I said. When you go to work, you have to fit work. But when you're an entrepreneur, work fits you, right? Your independence, who you are, can really come out because it's just your right to be exactly you, right? The end, it's time for something new. You do something over and over again. I liked when I asked you about your podcasting and you were telling me about your beautiful publishing, the portion of your company, and you decided to expand into podcasting, right?
Right.
It's something new. Someone who's an entrepreneur, you're never satisfied where you are for very long. You'll say, let me expand this, let me grow this. That's why you have these great companies out here now. Decades ago, somebody came over on a ship or from another country, or even were born here in the United States, and they started something small and they kept saying, give me something new, give me something new. If I love Wendy's. Wendy's, oh my gosh, has the best French fries, right? But if you know Dave, who started Wendy's years ago, he passed away probably about a decade ago, and he named it after his daughter Wendy. And she'll tell you that she never really saw her daddy growing up because her daddy was always building up Wendy's. Believe it or not, when Dave started Wendy's, it was like a new thing. Going through a drive-through, the McDonald's and all that. People didn't really do that. And so Dave worked and worked, and now look at Wendy's. Wendy's is everywhere. It's successful. He decided to do something new. And why? Because the why in destiny, it's you, right? The why is you. You have a right to be exactly you. Nobody should make you be who you're not. You shouldn't have to go to work and cut open boxes for all of your life just because you want a paycheck. You have a right to be exactly you. So it's your destiny. Why should you be an entrepreneur? It's your destiny. Doesn't have to be on some grand scale. Just start small and be exactly you.
Right. That was very insightful. And the new concept of destiny, I'm sure the audience would love it. And I thank you, Dr. Sonja, for sharing your inputs today and taking the time to join us for this podcast. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And we hope that you found this podcast informative and insightful. Thanks again, Dr. Sonja.